excellent. Excellent, captured in whatever, 28 minutes. I mean, it just absolutely captures what we're dealing with. And as I was sitting there listening to her comments, it occurred to me this question: where is the United States media? Where are the defenders of the free press and speech who are out there with their editorials and so on? Where are they in light of this particular effort? Folks, we can't count on either our government or the media to stand up for our rights under the First Amendment. We have to do it. What we're about in this effort, what we're calling Americans United to Defend Free Speech, which, by the way, is not a one-month-long campaign. I think you can recognize that this is something we're going to be dealing with for the foreseeable future, because we are dealing with an enemy who is relentless, who is tenacious, who is going to persist at this year after year after year. What we're about with this effort through Act for America is to start a national dialogue on this, to get this out there where people will at least be aware of it. How many people in America do you think have even the foggiest idea of what we're talking about tonight? 1 in 10,000? 1 in 100,000? I don't know. If we don't go out and start ringing the alarm bells, those of us who've been informed, this is going to eventually steamroller us. It's eventually going to chip away at things, and we'll wake up one day and ask ourselves, what happened? How could somebody in America be charged with hate speech? How could this occur? How could a state pass a law about hate speech? Well, ask how. It might not happen in the lifetimes of many of us who are here watching this tonight. Maybe it will. But even if it doesn't happen in our lifetimes, what about our children? What about our grandchildren? My first granddaughter was born a few weeks ago. And I look at her and I go, what kind of country is she inheriting if we don't fight back against this? So, just as we always do in this organization, because the name of our organization and our mission is not think about America or hope for America, it is what? Act for America. We have some concrete steps that we are already taking and will be taking over the next several months. I am not going to reveal all those tonight because I'm reasonably certain that people who are not friendly to where we're coming from are watching this webcast. So there are certain things strategically that we plan on doing that we're not going to reveal tonight. But I want to share with you a number of things that we are doing, and we are going to need your help over the next several months to make a success. By the way, one of our efforts is legislation called the Free Speech Defense Act. We have introduced that in several states around America, and what this does is, and by the way, it's already been passed in New York, it was passed in 2008, it's been passed in Tennessee. What this does is it protects authors and publishers from intimidation lawsuits that are filed in other countries, like Great Britain, where they don't provide the protection of speech and the press as we do here in the United States. Well, I'm really delighted to announce that Friday morning, that bill was signed into law in the state of South Dakota. What we are also doing is we are going to get this year and next year resolutions introduced and hopefully passed in at least some states, resolutions that call on our government to oppose the implementation of UN Resolution 1618. Now, the purpose of these resolutions is very simple. We want, over the next year to 2 years, and they may call it a different resolution, they may call it UN Resolution 27 Giggly Goom, I don't know, in a year and a half. But whatever they're going to call it, what are we going to do? We're going to keep putting it out there and exposing what it is. We want our national government, our political leaders, to start seeing in state after state, state legislatures passing resolutions that oppose the implementation of UN Resolution 1618 or anything resembling it. That's how we're, from a grassroots perspective, start doing an uprising even within the state legislatures. And you know what? Even if the state legislature that gets it introduced doesn't pass it, the very fact that we can get it introduced is something we can point to say, this is happening in state after state after state. As part of that effort, tonight we have online a national petition letter that is an open letter to both Congress and the state, all 50 state legislatures, that describes this threat and urges them to introduce and pass this resolution. So what I'm asking everybody who's watching this tonight, go to our website tonight, go to our actforamerica.org and sign this open letter and forward it to everyone you know as a step that we're going to be pursuing over the next several months to get not just a few thousand names, not 20,000 names, but hopefully 100,000 names, 150,000 names, that we can then take this not only to Congress with a news conference on Capitol Hill, but we can send this letter with the signatures to every state legislature and say, you need to act on this. Because folks, if we defeat Islamic terrorism, but we lose our right to free speech, we still lose. And frankly, I think we'll do a better job fighting terrorism than we're doing fighting the threats to our free speech right now. So go to our website and sign that open letter. We're going to have an extensive multimedia effort this year to focus on this. Many of you have seen Brigitte on programs like Hannity. You've heard her on the radio. We are going to be pushing this out the door to talk radio programs, news and talk radio programs on both radio and television, because I'm convinced a lot of these people who are big talk radio hosts, they don't know about this either. They're not aware of it. But I have this feeling that when they do, they're going to be concerned. They just don't know. So we're going to go out and take it out to them. And over the next several months, Brigitte will be doing interviews. I'll probably be doing interviews. Hopefully we'll get so many requests we can't handle all the interviews so that we can get this out there. We did something like this during the Ground Zero Mosque controversy. For those of you who were part of our organization in 2010, you saw the effect of that. We had a petition that was signed by over 120,000 people. Brigitte did over 200 interviews in 6 months. We were a major force behind this whole effort that raised the public awareness about the Ground Zero Mosque. Now, this one may not have the same focal point as the Ground Zero Mosque, but I'm convinced that if we work at it long enough and stay persistent, because of the nature of the threat, as more and more people wake up to it, they're going to say, you know what? We need to do something about this. We're having a conference call in 2 weeks with Tea Party leaders across the country. Tea Party leaders ought to be concerned about this. One of their stated goals from the Tea Parties is concerns about the Constitution. Well, I'll tell you what, this is it. This is the First Amendment. We're going to try to push out into the Tea Party movement and say, folks, you need to wake up to this. Unfortunately, we can't count on groups like the ACLU to join us. You would think, would you not, that the American Civil Liberties Union would get on this bandwagon. Don't hold your breath. So we are going to do it. This multimedia effort will also include social media, and we're even looking at some ways to use humor to poke fun at the very nature of speech codes. In other words, if the Danish cartoons raise a controversy, well, you know what? We're going to practice our freedom of speech, and we're looking at some ways, like maybe with a cartoon strip or some things like this, to poke fun at the very notion that American speech should be prohibited based upon the consequence. And I really love that distinction, Deborah. Content-based versus consequence-based. I mean, there are times that, I haven't liked what somebody said about me or about what I believe. Wouldn't we all, love a situation where if we really got upset about it, we could just complain, get angry, throw a brick at them and say, it's not my fault. It's their fault. They offended me. I mean, how absurd is that very notion? I mean, it's like Alice in Wonderland stuff. I almost can't put my mind around how absurd and preposterous it is. We're also going to have a letter to the editor campaign. If you get our national emails, stay tuned. That will happen sometime this year. And we're going to have a bumper sticker and poster contest. Here's what we're going to do. We're looking for slogans, for bumper stickers and for posters that could be used during events later this year. If you have an idea for a bumper sticker or a poster, a slogan, send it to info, I-N-F-O, info@actforamerica.org. If we select your idea, we'll send you, for example, an autographed copy of one of Brigitte's books. We'll send you a couple of our resources as our thank you, because we want to hear back from you. You might have some great ideas of ways in which we can express our First Amendment right to our opinion. So if you're watching online or you're here in the studio, make a note of that. And the last thing I want to point out that we're going to do, and this is a pretty big one. How many of you remember the Open the Koran Day event we had back in 2011? Anybody here in the audience remember that? A few. Okay. September 25th is the 224th anniversary of Congress's passage of the Bill of Rights. We have dubbed September 25th Freedom of Speech Day. And on this day, our goal is to have events all over the country and even in other countries that want to get involved in this, that will host Freedom of Speech Day events to commemorate what this was all about. We have on our website, if you go to our website, actforamerica.org, and in the rotating feature at the top, the banner that slides across, there's a place where you can sign up to host a Freedom of Speech Day event. There are instructions as to what we expect of this, and all you have to do is sign up right now. Everybody who signs up is going to get detailed instructions, materials. We're going to give examples of things that can be used for showing at this event. I am strongly recommending that everybody who has this event get that Silent Conquest film. I mean, that thing is powerful. And show that at an evening event on September 25th so that people will wake up to what is coming our way and how serious this is. In addition to the evening events on Freedom of Speech Day, we're going to encourage people to do street corner type freedom of speech. Holding up posters, waving at people when they go by, and just telling them, stopping at street corners. Today is the 224th anniversary of freedom of speech. Just to start raising awareness of the fact that this is indeed something that is under assault. I'm convinced that this is something that will appeal to people across the political spectrum once they wake up to it. Yes, I know there are people who are so concerned about political correctness that they have, what are people I call enablers for radical Islam. But I also think that many of them, or at least some of them, as they see this threat, will start thinking through, you know what? If we lose our freedom of speech, that's not true just for those right-wing crazies. So I'd ask you to go to our website, actforamerica.org, sign the petition letter to Congress and the state legislatures. Sign up to host a Freedom of Speech Day. We will be pushing this throughout the next several months. This is a highlight of what we're going to be doing this year. And hopefully by the end of the fall, we're going to look back and say, we started making a dent in this and raising awareness as to what this threat is all about. I've been doing this now for 5.5 years. And there's a lot of things I've learned in this process. There's a whole lot of things I've learned that I didn't know 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And one of the things I've learned is, just like standing up to a bully on a street corner, when you stand up to the intimidation tactics of the threat of radical Islam, when you organize and fight against them, they back down. It's when you cower in front of them. It's when you capitulate to those threats that empowers them and gives them this idea, encourages them to do more. We need to stand up to this threat. Not just for today, but just say, you know what? I'm going to do some things. You don't have to be thinking about this like we do. I mean, we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. But just to be saying, you know what, I'm going to do a Freedom of Speech Day. I'm going to sign that petition. I'm going to send emails to people that I know. Just to start getting it out there so that people will become aware of what it is we're talking about. And lastly, I want to, before we take questions tonight, I want to reiterate what Brigitte said about the National Conference. Our National Conference this year is going to focus on a number of issues, this free speech issue being one of them. And we are going to profile some people who have been very courageous in their standing up for free speech and for human rights in the face of threats and intimidation. We are encouraging you, if at all possible, to sign up and come to this conference. Because, yes, we have the internet. Yes, we have webcasts like this. Yes, we have emails. But you know what I've learned about life? Sometimes there just is no substitute for being there in the same room with people and hearing what they have to say and seeing that, you know what, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only one. There are other people who agree with me. We're not fighting this by ourselves. Freedom, as Deborah pointed out so aptly, is the exception to the rule historically, and it is fragile. And America's experiment with freedom at a level that the world has never known is only a little over 2 centuries old. It doesn't mean it's going to be here 50 years from now, or 30 years from now, or 20 years from now. As Thomas Jefferson is attributed to said, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. If each of us does a little in this effort, we will be able to stand up against this. I believe there are millions and millions of patriotic Americans who, if they just were aware of it, would do something about this. We need to get them aware. We need to do that.